This is Mr. Taylor here with Dictionary Skills, the slightly advanced edition. This is part of the Learning Bird series on analyzing text vocabulary. Mind the dust as you grab yours from the shelf. It's time to take a deeper look at using this classic but underrated tool, the dictionary. Why use it? Dictionaries contain a wealth of information, from the definitions of a word to its spelling and pronunciation to instructions on how to use it grammatically, and maybe even how the word entered the language in the first place. So the basics, which I'm guessing are a review. Dictionaries contain a massive collection of standard, agreed upon information about as many of the words from our language as they can hold. As our language expands and evolves, so does the collection. Imagine 25 years ago trying to look up texting or blog. Even wonderful words like muggle have been recognized by the Oxford English Dictionary. Luckily for our pocketbooks, who still uses the word pocketbooks? As the number of entries continues to grow, so does the technology we use to access them. We no longer need to purchase a new edition just to be able to look up ridiculous words like bay, because most of us use free online dictionaries. Sometimes even crowdsourced dictionaries like Urban Dictionary, because even though they may not be the most reliable, they do at least stay up to date. And yes, you can look up crowdsourcing through Merriam-Webster. Of course, online dictionaries also feature one major advantage: searching. Can't you almost hear a chorus of seraphim ringing out hallelujah? To find an entry in the dusty old tomes, you'd have to be pretty familiar with your ABCs, well practiced in the art of flipping to the right page, and of course, knowledgeable about the many tricks English can play with spelling. Let's all have a moment of silence for the school children of the past who might still today be looking up the word knowledgeable without knowing about that silent K. Let's take for granted you already know how to jump to the right word, because otherwise, that's another video for another day, and get down to the task of figuring out what all of those little pieces of each entry mean. Anyone have a favorite word you'd like me to look up? No? I'm the only one ridiculous enough to have a favorite word? Okay, well, we'll use mine. I'll give you a clue. It has all 5 vowels in alphabetical order. If you guessed facetious, then congratulations, we have a winner. So let's take a look. Here we have facetious from the old school dictionary that I have in my classroom. The first thing you'll notice, and I'll circle each part in orange as I talk about it, is the entry name. In this case, it's going to give us the spelling, but it's also going to give us those funny little dots in between. We wouldn't use those when we actually spell out the word. Those are there to tell us the syllables. One time, a teacher told me that if you put your finger under your chin and pronounce the word facetious, then you'll feel your finger move 3 times, 1 time for each of those syllables. Up next, we have the pronunciation and the emphasis on the word. The emphasis is going to be designated by that bold apostrophe, and it's attached to the middle syllable there, so that tells us to pronounce it like facetious as opposed to facetious. And also in the pronunciation, it looks like we've got some funny upside down E's. That's odd. And then up next we have the part of speech. In this case we have ADJ telling us that this word is an adjective. You'll see N for noun, ADV for adverb, and then for verbs sometimes you'll see V, sometimes you'll see VI or VT depending on if it's a transitive or intransitive verb. Don't worry about that. That's another lesson for another video. And then you'll have the language of origin. So we see that facetious came to us from Old French. That's why we have the O and then the FR. And then it came to the French from LAT. If you've guessed it, that would be Latin. Finally, we come to the definition of the word, which is what most of us are looking for when we use a dictionary. This word means playfully jocular, and I love jokes, so no wonder I love this word so much. Then we have that colon, and then we have humorous in short caps, and that's going to tell us that we have another synonym for the word. Sometimes you get a long list of synonyms, sometimes you don't have any. In this case, we get one. If it's an antonym, it will give you the abbreviation ANT to let you know that. And then finally, this definition ends with different inflections of the verb. So for instance, if we want to take this adjective and turn it into an adverb, we would say facetiously. If we want to take this and turn it into a noun, then we could say facetiousness. Let's take a look at another definition. Here's the definition for schwa. And we have 2 different definitions here. That's why we have part 1 and then part 2 split up with those different numbers. First, it's a vowel sound that in English often occurs in an unstressed syllable, as the sound of A and alone, or the E in linen. The symbol, that upside down E, oh, it's almost like I put this here on purpose, is often used to represent a schwa. So, let's talk really quickly about a pronunciation trick. If you can remember that upside down E, even if you don't remember it's called a schwa, you can still remember that it's pronounced like or at least if you try really hard to remember how to pronounce it and you vocalize that and say, while you're trying to remember, hopefully that'll help you. Another common one you'll see that does not fit the trick I'm going to show you is this A with the 2 dots above it, and that'll be pronounced like the ah in father. For the rest of the trick, if you see the vowel as normal with no other dots or lines or anything else next to it, those are going to be the short vowels. And that's when you pronounce the alternate version of the vowel, like the ah, or the a in apple, the e in egg, depending on where you live in the country, the I in kick, the ah in otter, and the in umbrella. And then the long vowels will have these lines over them. And I remember this because the alphabet is a lot longer than just these 5 vowels. And if you remember seeing the alphabet above your blackboard or whiteboard in your elementary school classroom, it might have looked like that long line over these vowels. And that's when you pronounce it the way that you would say it in the alphabet, like the A in ape, the E in eel, the I in isle, the O in open, and the U in use. Let's take a look at one more word. This one's got a pretty tricky pronunciation, so you can try this one on your own, try to guess what it is, but I'm going to tell you in just a second. This one is a noun, and it comes to us from German. It looks German, and as a matter of fact, it looks like one of my students even wanted to emphasize that it was German and underline that G for us. And this word is a fun word because it means enjoyment derived from the misfortunes of others. So we can take a look at that first syllable. We see that it's got that ah with the A with the 2 dots above it, like father. So that tells us that it's pronounced as shod. And then that apostrophe gives us the emphasis in that syllable. And then we have in and a syllable all on its own. And then we have Freud, another emphasis on this syllable. Not quite as much of an emphasis. That's why the apostrophe is a little bit smaller. And then we end with another one of those schwas, so this would be pronounced as duh. So putting it all together, Sesame Street style, we would call this Schadenfreude. Thank you for watching. This is Advanced Dictionary Skills with Mr. Taylor.